Welcome to another video here with Day&A Mustangs. Today's video, the goal is to get this here Coyote engine into that there Challenger's engine bay. Stay tuned. So I prepped the engine already, as you've seen on the other videos. This is pretty much ready to go. I do have to get my transmission all ready today, so that is the goal. Flywheel's in there, so I do have to mount the flywheel on the engine. I have already kind of pressure washed this, but I'm gonna put a little bit more degreaser, scrub it a little bit more, and then clean it. Just slightly more, probably throw some black paint on it, kind of like I did on the engine. So that's gonna be the goal. So I'm gonna get started with this. Once that's done, I do have a new filter, gasket, seals, and so that's the other goal, to get all the seals changed out on this. So that's what's gonna be in for today. The goal is to, I know I put the engine in the car a couple times, but the goal today is to actually get it in there, fabricate the mounts, bolt it on there, get the headers on there, and leave it in the car for now. It might come out of the car one more time, maybe even a couple more times, maybe for the engine harness and all that. I do also have to run the brake lines in the car, so one of them runs here on the firewall behind, which is no big deal. I can do it with the engine on there, but I might take it out one more time just to run those all the way to the back, make sure that the master cylinder and booster I'm gonna put in there is all plumbed correctly, because I do need brakes, you know, before I can drive it. So, and I might also order some fuel line and run that while I'm doing the brake line too, just that way I can kind of run them kind of close to each other. So let me get this transmission moved, get this car moved out of the way here, and start cleaning. Went ahead and took the flex plate torque converter out. I went ahead and replaced the front pump seal here. So you can get this tool from any parts store. This is the OEM number here, but you just slip it in there and you take the seal out. Similar on the back, I did have to get a screwdriver and kind of wedge that in between. That way it pushes the seal out, so I can get a ledge and pull it out. I also cleaned the transmission a little bit more. So at this point, what I'm gonna do is, that's pretty clean. I'm going to get my engine, and I'm gonna try to roll it here to the edge of the door, get my engine hoist and take it out of the stand, and then I'm gonna try to bolt the transmission here. I think I have some long bolts just to put it in here and do the pan. That way it's kind of supported. I can put a drain pan underneath, do the gasket and the pan. Once I do that, then I can actually mate it to the engine that will be on the stand. I got the transmission with these long bolts bolted on here, same pattern as the engine, so I didn't have to change any of this, just put long bolts. And just so I can work on it, technically you can flip this over, you know, all the way around and work on it that way. I just figured I can actually take the pan off here and get my gasket and everything. So I never really looked at the bottom of this. Looks like they kind of, you know, damaged the corner a little bit here. This came from a salvage yard. You know, most of the time they don't really care what happens to anything. So I guess under the fence though, when you're buying a used tranny, you should have your old core, you know, your pan and everything. So that's kind of how it was in the engine, with the valve cover kind of damaged. I mean, technically I should have had my factory engine, so that's kind of why they're like, well, doesn't matter. Anyways, I'll look inside. I don't think there's nothing in this area. There's usually a magnet here. The oil looked pretty decent. I mean, older, but not full of shavings or anything. We'll just see once I take this off how everything looks, but I'm just gonna put a new gasket, new filter. So 10 millimeter is the socket you need for all these bolts. This ones are really clean, so I don't have to get them all clean or anything. Also, I broke them loose with the ratchet. They're a little bit tight, not too crazy, but and I'm just gonna leave probably this last one up here just to make sure. Most of the oil would come up to that dipstick, that's why I turned it that way. And this transmissions come with a reusable gasket unless someone has changed it at some point. I really like these. You know, you can reuse them, they don't leak. They have metal in between, so if you're never done your transmission pan, you know, just pretty much make sure it's not damaged, but just leave it rather than putting one of those cork ones. Those things always leak. So Pioneer makes it. There's the part number. And I just figured I'm in here, I might as well get a new one. It is the same style, metal. So we use this one here since it's new. And then here's the filter. This one should just pull out and make a mess for you. There is like a O-ring in here that new filter should come with. Sometimes it's stuck in there a little bit, so just use like a little screwdriver or like a pick to pull it out. Which is good that it's in there, that means it's tight. But the new one should just push in there, so. Push the new filter in, should be pretty straightforward. And then we're just gonna get the bolts. There's a couple that are a little black on the head, so I'm just kind of scrubbing them, but what you want to do is put a couple of bolts so your gasket lines up. Now this is metal and rubber, it's not gonna fold or anything, or it shouldn't fold or anything unless you're really trying to destroy it. So don't forget to throw your magnet in there. And that's pretty much gonna be it. So I do have my mount. Now I'm gonna wait on that till it's in the car because I have to fabricate something. The Mustang mount is really long also for here because it integrates the like a little bracket for the O2 sensors on this year, so I might end up just kind of cutting it. But anyways, I'm gonna finish putting this back together. You know, just the bolts, tighten it up to specs. I'll look up the torque specs. If not, just, you know, decently tight. And then I'll have to pull it out there and start mating it to the engine. The transmission, just all black. I also did torqued all the bolts. They should be torqued to 12 foot-pounds from what I found in my manual there. I did put a new O-ring here on the dipstick as well, pushed it all the way down. So what I'm gonna do now, while that dries a little bit, I do have to come over here and install my flywheel. So I do have to take this pilot bearing off because I have an automatic transmission. So the torque converter possibly would go in there. I don't know if it goes that much in there, but the little spout there underneath has to go in there. I have to take that off, put my flywheel on. This is the flywheel I got, so this is from Holly. This is the part number here. I did try the Pioneer part number, so take note of that. The Pioneer part number that I showed in the video that I did before, the bolts don't line up with the Mustang torque converter. So the Mustangs come with a smaller circle, I think 10.5 torque converter. And the Pioneer one, because I even got the kind of like the heavy duty one, doesn't have the holes for the 10.5. This one does, and it was really tight, so I just made them a little bit bigger with a drill bit. I still do need, they fit on there right now because you saw earlier I had it on there, but I'm gonna get my Dremel and just touch it a little bit so it goes in there way easier. I'm not trying to fight it, put it in the engine and transmission. So just so you know, this part number does have the smaller. Now if I ever change the torque converter on this engine, this transmission, or if I get it built, most of the torque converters they give you on the 470Ws are the bigger bolt pattern, which I think like the F-150s or, you know, the trucks have. I think it's like an 11, and this one does have that bolt pattern as well. So but since that's what I have, this is what I'm gonna be using, so I'm gonna bolt that on there. I did order some ARP bolts a while back, which are up here. So this is the bolts that are going to be going in there. This is for the 46, 54, 50 Coyote, so they're all the same bolts. Gonna put that on there, and then by then this should be dry, and I can you know, I had to put this on this stand by myself, but I'll get it out there and try to bolt them both together. Okay, I found some bolts for the torque converter in my basket of nuts and bolts. I need to remove that pilot bearing. Like I said, I don't have the special tool, and so I heard of using bread, and I started doing it. I'm like, you know what, I better film this because people always say, you know, yeah, just use some bread and get a bolt that's pretty big and just hit it. And I was always like, okay, yeah, that works. They also say to, or people have said to use grease. I figure bread is less messy than all the grease, but well, you look at that. Freaking works. Can you believe it? I have never tried it. That's amazing. Now this stuff is very compacted in there, so you know, I'm sure if I go get a screwdriver I can get it right out. But even with your hand, I mean, you just have a ball of dough in there. Wow, this is freaking awesome. I always heard of this, I never believed it, but it works. Hardest part is getting this smushed bread out of here. Wish I should just go get a screwdriver and start messing around with this, but you can get it out with your fingers, you just gotta work it. Look at that. Came right out. Just with some bread. That is freaking amazing. Like I said, I never believed that worked. So there you have it. It's pretty awesome. The flex plate all set on there with the ARP hardware. Those go 70 foot-pounds. They take some of the ARP lubricant on the head and then Loctite on the threads. So did that. On this engine, different than like my 5.0 old school on the 67, where you have a cover on the bottom that's you take off to do the bolts. This one has this cover here, little circle. So I'm ready to make the transmission to the engine. Here's that plug that I was trying to take out earlier. So that's where the torque converter bolts will be tightened from. Obviously I'll have to trim the engine to match, you know, each hole. So for example, and I have to get something probably stronger. This screwdriver is kind of skinny, but I'll have to move it and just so it lines up there, and then, you know, tighten up each bolt. So make sure when you install this in there, you turn it plenty of times when it's seated all the way in. If it's not, you can damage your pump. So just remember, it's about an inch that this is going to go in there. So your torque converter, this spot has to be about an inch back from the flat surface. So if you see it's barely like half an inch, there's still the 2 ears for the pump that need to go in. Okay, so I got everything bolted on, flex plate and everything. So in the essence of time, because there's never enough time for everything, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the engine in and start working on the mounts, because I wanted to get it mounted today. My plan is, and I will still do this, here on the shock towers, because with the coilover suspension, huge shout out to QA1. You can see the nice coilover suspension there. Anyways, you don't use the shocks here, you know, it has the coilovers, and so it's not a big deal. But what I wanted to do is cut this here right at the base till about right here, because I still use these for the control arm. So maybe, you know, cut it like right here, kind of in a little slant, go across here, and then cut this out. And then I do have some about 8-inch metal, maybe a little bit thinner. You know, I was gonna make the template, make a piece for the bottom, and make a flat piece here. So this will be flat, and that would be on both sides, and that should give me, you know, a little bit more clearance just right there on top. I think from the last times that we did, you know, I still had enough clearance, but that was kind of the plan. Now, instead of starting that, because I was going to do that first, so I don't run out of time today, I'm going to put the engine in here, fabricate the motor mounts, hopefully do the tranny mount, and then if I have enough time, I can pull the engine out, work on. This is the mounts here, so I'm just going to put together the bushings so I can put them on that, you know, tubular key member. I'm also going to get this piece of cardboard, and I'll get my plasma cutter out, but I'm gonna make a template here. So I'm probably just gonna make a cardboard template for this, all of these 6 bolts here. on the side of the block on the driver. On the other side there's only 4. And then just so I have a cardboard template on both sides. Once I get it in there, then I'll know kind of where the amount's gonna be. I can cut the metal from the template, because I can always just do like 4 here or 4 here, depends where it lands. I don't need to do 6 bolts. I mean, you know, it's gonna have 1 bolt going across. What's the point of having 6 bolts? And especially like this side here, there's only 4 bolts. Now there's farther spread apart. I could probably just do like 3. That's probably strong enough. I think that's how the new edge motor mounts are. And then, you know, cut that from there. So I do have a starter and everything, but I do want to get it mounted, so I'm gonna focus on that right now and go from there. Okay, so I got the bushings into the mounts here, and I also cut a couple of templates. So one on this side, I don't have more bolts, but that will just hold it in there. And then I did a big piece on this side, but you know, like I said, depending where it lands, I'm guessing probably in the front. I probably would just cut it smaller and just have the 4 bolts. So at this point, I'm ready to try to get this in there on my own. So let's see how that goes. All right, got the Coyote in here. So I think pretty much this is where it's gonna live. The oil filter has about 1/2 inch right now clearance. The oil pan also has about 1/2 inch clearance there on the rack and pinion. Really, I could possibly make like a bracket to lower the rack and pinion, but at that point, you know, I think it would be way too low, because this is already lower than the car. If I lower the rack and pinion where it mounts like here, that's going to be lower, even lower than the car. Right there, it's about 1/2 inch from the oil pan, which is okay. And there's about 1/2 inch clearance around the around the rack and pinion from the oil filter, so that's not bad at all. Transmission is pretty much tucked all the way in. When I take it out, because I probably will take this back out again, I will cut some of the casting of the transmission. There's 2 little pieces that are on top, and those are almost hitting the tunnel, and there's really no use for the tranny. I think that's just where you hold it when they build them, whatever. So I might cut those off, or at least cut 1/2 inch on them, gives it a little bit more clearance. But I think that's where it's gonna live. I mean, it's pretty decent. You know, back here I do still have about 4 inches from the back of the engine, which is okay. I could potentially, I mean, if I go farther back, there's a couple different things that will happen here. Is one, the oil filter. Now I can put an oil filter relocation kit. The other thing is the transmission. Just because of the factory tunnel, it gets pretty small back here. So I mean, if I go back, I could probably actually clearance it. It's not gonna be able to go down, but I could probably actually go back, and that might actually be better. So let me think about that. Let me look and see what the filter relocation kits look like. If they're pretty shallow on the filter there, I can always run the filter there to the frame rail, push this thing back maybe about at least 2 inches. I think that would be okay. These are the tabs here. I don't know if you can see them, but there's these tabs that stick out. Okay, so I went ahead and took the filter off. I will either buy relocation, I know there's other filters that are a little bit shorter, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I do like how it's closer now. I did move it back about 2 inches. It's okay on the transmission tunnel. It looks pretty good. I have a lot more clearance here up front. I still have about 1/2 inch there on the oil pan to the rack. Now I could lower it to be closer, but I think I'm gonna leave it right there, because by the time I'm done with the mount there, you know, I may have to once it settles, it might go down a little bit. So I don't want to leave it 1/4 inch and then it touches, at least 1/2 inch. If it goes down, that should be good. So the mounting is pretty far up front, so I have to kind of think about that here. This side it's a little bit easier, but I think I'm just gonna have to get my mount and angle it and see what I can do there.
You can see Alex has the engine kind of mocked up here. He's working on the motor mounts, kind of getting tucked in. But before we do that, it's down there. We're gonna make sure those long tubes fit before we weld anything. Let's see. Those on the other side? But so far we can see it's kind of hitting there the shock mount, so we might have to, you know, massage that a little bit, or we'll see if technically we haven't welded the motor mount, so we could raise the engine up a little bit. But we'll see what Master Mechanic Alex on there decides to do. But we do have 2 options. Like I said, we could massage that and assume that a little bit amount of clearance is gonna work, or we could raise the engine up a little bit since we haven't made the motor mounts yet. So we'll see what we do. All right, so as you can see, we're now test fitting this driver's side, and we ended up lifting the engine and pulling the engine forward a tad bit just because of the steering shaft. And you gotta remember, we're gonna end up cutting this and getting a universal like joints on there, so we're gonna go down, so it won't no longer hit and it'll clear down there. So on this side we're pretty much set, and down there it doesn't hit anywhere, right Alex?
No.
Okay, down there we're good. And then on this passenger side, now that we moved it forward and up, we should have clearance. Essentially, we're gonna check it here in a second. And then this might be where the engine lives if this side fits. Let's see, Alex is coming around right now. All right, so here's the header now. Let's see how we're looking on this side. Well, is it on the block?
It's on the block there. It looks like it's...
Well, we're gonna have to massage.
Touching, but we can massage that tube a little bit. I mean, that's pretty much what it's gonna have to be.
But that's not bad considering, because over here it's actually, it's not even touching right here. Right here it's barely, so if we massage there, actually this whole piece right here, we would be set. So I think that's safe to say this is probably where the engine's gonna live. And it looks like we still have some room in between the hood and the block here for some activities, you know, wink wink. So now Alex is gonna take some measurements there from those motor mount pieces that go to the K-member, and then we'll just tack them. That way we can take off this hoist, and officially that way people stop talking smack. This engine is officially in the Challenger on its own without the hoist, for all the haters out there. So as you can see, chain has some slack now. It's officially on the K-member. Alex did some weldings. It's just tech for now. It's not 100% done as of yet. We still got to pull it out and do it the right way. However, this is where it's gonna live. We did test with the header. It went down a tad bit, obviously with the weight, but we're still good on this side. The other side, he's gonna test me in a second. Let's see, he's pulling it up right now. All right, let's see, moment of truth.
We're gonna lose the shop. I'm too fat, I don't fit with the header. Damn it. Whose idea was it to put on two headers, huh? Your idea?
No.
Jeez.
There we go.
Imagine trying to do that with everything mounted. Well, it's
We're gonna have to massage it a little bit here in the back, and no, over here it's not touching. I mean, we still could for clearance, but it's just back here. Like it barely touches.
And actually, the bolt holes are all lined up right there.
So I gotta take that's a win, because we could just, you know, give a little massage right there. Here, as you guys can see, there is a gap, so it's just back here, and we're good. Transmission tunnel is good too. Up here we still have room for radiator, fan, whatever else we need up there. This side, like I said, we're gonna have to mess with that steering shaft. We're gonna get a universal U-joint, but we should be good. So I think it's safe to say this is where the Coyote is gonna live on this car.
You ain't gonna get better than that, I'll tell you that.
No, considering this is a Coyote on a 71 Challenger, I take that as a win. So, as you can see, like I mentioned, there's no more slack, so we'll take that out here in a second. And looks like, as you can see down here, transmission also looks good. We're gonna have to do some finessing on the transmission, some tabs and stuff, so we can, as you can see, we gotta scoot it over a little bit from the back. But other than that, the hard part's pretty much done.
Pretty much, you know, like I said before, I'm out of time for today, so I'm actually past my time. So the motor mount I'm gonna have to fabricate, you know, that's gonna be next episode. Next time I have time, next day I'm off work, I'll do the tranny mount. With that, the engine tranny is gonna come out one last time. I do have to weld those mounts all the way around once I got them off. Probably same with the tranny mount. And on the tranny, I think I mentioned that earlier, I'm gonna cut the little tabs on top because those are hitting the tunnel. Rather than hitting the tunnel, I can cut those pieces off. Just, you know, one on each side, and then that'll give me the clearance around back there. The nice thing is on the bottom it's pretty flat, so the tranny pan, engine pan, it's a little bit higher than the cross member here for the coilover, so that's good. You know, if you hit something, it's not going to hit the pan, engine or tranny pan. I was able to scoot it back like I talked about before, but we did bring it forward a little bit, and I think
Still actually, pretty far back though.
I do have about ½ an inch. I can actually pull it. Well, if I lift it, maybe. The motor mounts are actually, that did go forward about
it's scooted, so we still have like.
We have about.
So what Alex is talking about is that gap right there. So we still have a ½ inch.
So technically, with those mounts, there's a little bit of.
Yeah, it came back.
I can move it forward, and then I can also actually technically push it to the driver's side a little bit.
That might even give us enough clearance.
So there's a little bit of movement there. There's some washers that you put in those, so that's enough movement to really line it up. On the back, same thing. Once I do the mount, and I'm gonna fabricate the mount, but probably leave it, you know, the holes kind of long like these, so that once I cut those tabs off, I can actually move the tranny whichever way I need to a little bit. The thing with the drive shaft I talked about before, it did not work. I need to make a longer drive shaft. I think it needs to be probably like 8 to 10 inches longer. So it is what it is. Once I found that out, then it didn't really matter where the engine's at. So, but I think that's pretty good amount. I mean, the radiator, you know, maybe 2 inches. That gives a lot of room here, even for a fan.
Especially if we do a skinny fan.
That still gives us like 3-4 inches of space here. So that's a good amount. If you see, the engine is actually sitting a little bit more to the back from the center line of the tires than forward, so that makes it's gonna make it handle better. And so that's it. Long day. I'm still gonna cut these towers like I mentioned before. So when I pull the engine, I'll cut these, put a flat piece of metal there. That's gonna make that just a little bit cleaner. And then it's pretty much waiting till I can order the computer for it and get it running. There's a lot of things to get it running: fuel, you know, coolant, all that stuff, which it all costs money, and you know, have to do it slowly. But anyways, I think that's it for this video. I talked enough. It's end of the day, gotta clean up. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.